Hey everyone, welcome to Just Shoot It, a podcast about filmmaking, screenwriting, and directing. We are jumping into our conversation midstream with the Nelms Brothers. If you have not heard the previous episode, go ahead and pull over, pull out your phone,
get off the treadmill,
because you really want to hear the first half of this conversation. We are leading up to the culmination of their career. These two brothers, Ian and Ash, have been in the trenches making awesome movies, and we are finally about to learn how they are getting Hollywood stars in their next big films, which will culminate with their new feature film, Red Right Hand, which should be in theaters while you're listening to this.
So here it goes, our great conversation with the Nelms Brothers. This happens to, I think, every filmmaker when they come to LA. They have a project, they got some interest, people are talking, and every single writer-director at some point is asked by a friend of theirs, hey, if they just offered to make your movie for $6 million, would you be okay not directing?
Yeah,
most people say yes.
We had that situation literally happen to us. So what happened was that we had that conversation with them. We talked to all the actors were on board, and then they literally came to us and said, we're going to pull this and blow it up, and we're not going to make it if you guys don't relent and let this guy direct it. And we're going to go off and make this. We're going to go off and make this, start pre-production in like next week. If you guys can just find your ego and step off.
And they obviously sold it to us. This is going to be a great first step for you guys. It's going to put a big movie under your belts, and like the next one you can direct.
And we were like, oh, fuck. And we just held to it. We just said, fuck you. We're not fucking doing it. And we walked. With the I guess hope that we would be able to find another way to do it, because we had other companies we were talking to as well that were like, can you do it for 5 instead of 6, and we'll do it with you, shit like that just never, it just watered through our fingers every time, you know what I mean, for whatever reason. And then like,
is this Fat Man or is this a different project?
This is another one that I don't want to say the title because we're probably going to make it pretty damn quick.
Sure. But
we've done a polish on it. It's fucking humming right now, we think.
It's funny because like this story feels so familiar to me, and like I think, I've certainly lived through versions of it myself over the years, right? Like everybody has stuff that like is maybe gonna go and then for whatever reason doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny that we don't talk about it a ton on the show, because like I think as a young filmmaker, naively you're like, well, that won't happen to me, or like I would see it coming, or like it just, you hear horror stories about Hollywood, quote unquote, or Hollywood people, and like it always ends up being like a little bit different than what you imagine. And like, I don't know, it's fascinating to either have things, fall through your fingers, or also to like be caught up just in the waiting game, right? Like that thing of like, okay, well, as soon as I attach the right, actor, or like the money's going to come through with X, Y, or Z. And I think, we've heard time and time again, it's when filmmakers decide to just bootstrap again and get back into it. That's when things start going again and momentum starts picking back up.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're absolutely no exception to that.
Exactly. That feels like, that's exactly how we felt when it was happening. And then once we picked up and made Lost on Purpose, we got our mojo back in many different ways, as far as momentum, the ability to now, after making that film, because we'd made like, such low budgets and such low crew, and not dealing with any real professional actors, to going into Lost on Purpose with a $200,000 budget. And
so who paid for that movie?
So we literally just went around to friends and family and begged for $5,000 to $10,000 at a time. And
there was also like Ian had scrimped and saved all of his swimming lesson money over that.
So over the like
years.
5
Turns
years,
out there's like 51.5-year-olds whose parents think they can swim.
They just look really good that they can. But I over that like 5 years, I'd saved $60,000 over that 5 years.
Yeah.
With
so
the idea,
that's a real amount of money to be like, hey,
we already have a quarter.
Well, that's the funny thing, Oren. That's exactly how we did it, right? Is that we went out and we went to people that we knew and loved us, and family and friends and filmmaker friends, and we said, hey, we've already raised $60,000. You know, like there's already people who believe in us. That it was actually just our dumbasses putting everything we had into it.
Yeah, I did the same thing on my first feature.
Yeah, and you're like,
So
I
we
just
got
got to get
$100,000.
this money.
Yeah.
Exactly. It works great because I think, and honestly, like I feel like people probably would have been even more in if we would have told them the truth and said, hey, we've got ourselves 1,000% in on this. Every penny I have is being put into this movie off the top. They probably would have been like, well, fuck, we got to go in if you're going that hard and you believe in it that much. Yeah. Because our friends and family did really believe in us. So we would just get $5,000 or $10,000 at a time.
Wait, and you guys have, so at this point you have all these scripts that you love. And so Lost on Purpose seemed like the most shootable commercial one that you could.
It was the only one of a scope that we could shoot. I don't know that it was the most commercial one.
No, it was not commercial at all. It was the least commercial thing we'd ever written. And it was the first time we'd ever taken that advice of like, write what you know, write where you came from, write what you are. And so we wrote what we called at the time a dairy epic about 5 people living on a dairy farm. And the woman who runs it.
And this would be like our HUD last picture show.
Wait, because you grew up on a dairy farm?
We grew up in an area where there were a ton of dairy farms, but we grew up on a 10-acre horse ranch. So we had done, and our parents, we team roped all the way through high school with our father. So we knew
Tyler Sheridan stole it from you guys.
That's what we tell him. No. So we knew that world really well, like really well. So we wrote for a dairy farm, which we didn't have.
We wrote our parents' ranch into it. We wrote their horses. We wrote team roping.
Sure. We literally wrote a lot of people we knew into the movie. You know, combinations of people turned into characters, and like our moms in the movie.
Jane Kaczmarek and Thomas Howell.
Exactly. Jane Kaczmarek is basically like our mom and like another person smashed together. You know, it was a lot of fun stuff like that, and so it was really personal to us. But it was zero commercial. Like, oh yeah, like everybody's looking for that dairy epic to put into their film catalog.
Sure.
So everywhere we went, they would be like, why are you guys making this? This isn't even the type of film you guys are writing. Like, you've got all these crime thrillers. What are you doing with this fucking weird dairy cow drama?
We bought a dairy farm.
Like, we got to solicit somehow.
Yeah, so anyway, we ended up rounding up the money, scraping it together. I remember right in the middle of production, Ian turned to me because he was looking at the books and he goes, it's not now, it's not tomorrow, but we're gonna run out of money. And we still had like a week left of shooting, and I was like, oh wow.
All, what do you mean? Are you serious? And I was like, well, we'll have to go to credit cards, and we could probably finish it with like $10,000 or $15,000 on 2 or 3 different credit cards. But yeah, there's a really good chance we're gonna run out of money. We're not running a really good chance. It's happening. We're running out of money probably a week or 2 before we finish shooting.
It's imminent. It will happen very soon.
The plane will crash into the mountain. And I was like, oh my God, like what are we gonna do? And fortunately, you know, the town came together for us literally and had a dinner, a fundraising dinner for us, and ended up raising like another $25,000 for us to finish the shooting. And that was pretty miraculous. You know, it makes the hair on your arm stand up when you're sitting there. And
because we had all the actors there, we'd been shooting for like a month.
Wait, how did you get like Jane Kaczmarek? She was Malcolm in the Middle, right?
Yeah.
She had already kind of done.
So the first gentleman in on our investors was Steven Rogers, who wrote I, Tonya.
Hope Floats.
Yeah, so
this is before he did I, Tonya, but he'd done already Hope Floats and a bazillion other P.S. I Love You, a bunch of brilliant, you know, rom-coms and dramas.
And Steven's such a tremendous supporter of his friends, and we went to him with this script, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'll help you guys. Yeah, here's a check for some money, and like I'll be a producer. And like, what else do you need?" And we look, and he goes, "Look at my agency and see if there's anyone in there you like." And we're like, "Okay." Yeah. And so we went down the list, and we're like
his same reps, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's a real pal. That's
pretty
rad.
We're not the only people he's done that for either. He is a mensch and a half. Like that guy, he puts his nuts on the table for all of his friends. He is really impressive. He is a lovely, lovely, ballsy person.
And you guys had met him during your kind of Hollywood.
Yeah,
he was the first person we met that was in the business because a friend of Esham's girlfriend at the time was sleeping in his friend's closet, and he was he was trying to become a model. First of all,
it's a very nice closet. I'm sure
it was a giant closet, and he was like, "Put a mattress down. You can sleep in my closet." This manager, and so he was hanging out with that guy, and he was like, "Hey, you guys are writing. You guys have been in town for 2 months. You should come to this 4th of July block party and Santa Monica that I'm at, there's all kinds of like movie people here. The model friend of it said that.
Yeah, you can meet my friend Steven Rogers.
My friend Steven Rogers, who I met, 5 minutes ago, he did
Right.
Hope Floats. You should come down to meet him. And Steven's just a very open, giving person. So we came down there, a couple of chuckleheads, and we're just like, hey, oh yeah, we're trying to make movies too, And Steven is just that guy that will sit on the couch and talk to you and give you the stories and give you some information and give you some advice and be there to read some of your stuff too. Like, 6 months later, he's reading a script of ours, probably shaking his head going, what the fuck?
But I will say, like, that was an insane invitation to that group because it had a lot of notable people that would be popping in.
Notable people now, but they were not overly notable at the time. So when we got into that group, 2 months into town, it had this fiery Black woman named Octavia Spencer that was a struggling actress at the time. And she did like a bit part. And by that point, she had done a bit part on Being John Malkovich. She was in the elevator and she's like, 45th and a half floor. Shit, I'll open that shit up for you. And she cranks the thing open.
She's the one with the crowbar.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh shit, like she's fucking amazing. And she had this, and then while we were living there, she had like this bit part of Spider-Man where she saw, you're too little, you get your ass kicked.
Featherweight league or whatever it was. Yeah.
And then she had this amazing part in Bad Santa where she's like,
we know that one.
We know that one.
But anyways, she was in the group.
She was amazing.
Melissa McCarthy was in the group. Allison Janney was in the group.
Tate Taylor and Brunson Green, who ended up doing The Help, were in the group. And we were shooting short films with Tate and Brunson. We were just running around Hollywood. Tate's like, hey, and Brunson were like, hey,
because we showed him Squirrel Trap.
We showed him Squirrel Trap, and they're like, oh, y'all are making shit, huh? Okay, well, what'd you shoot that on? And we're like, Brunson's like the perfect producer, right? He's like, we're like, oh, we bought this camera and we got this laptop. He's like, what kind of laptop's that, y'all? And we're like, oh, it's a whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to borrow that. And we met this guy for 5 minutes, and he's telling us he needs to borrow our laptop to edit something.
He's a dear friend now, and
he's
it's
amazing.
And honestly, I think we gave it to him. We're like, yeah, man,
absolutely.
Sure.
And then he was like, what camera did y'all shoot that movie on? We're like, oh, we shot it on the DVX 100. We just bought it a couple months ago. And he's like, yeah, will y'all come out and DP this?
No, he said, hey, I'm gonna need to borrow that. And we're like,
oh, that's right.
You're not gonna borrow it without us.
We're coming along with it.
And so we came on as camera operators,
digital DP camera operators, like second unit DPs or whatever.
Crap.
And so,
sorry, I was just so that we get to Red Right Hand before we run out of time. So Lost on Purpose, did that get you guys back in?
Yeah, we'll go fast.
Into the rooms.
So Lost on Purpose opened a door that we got into some film festivals, and we
won like a dozen, 20 or a dozen like A- B+ film festivals. No film markets attached. Like you said, like a Newport Beach, Palm Beach International Film Festival, Real Heart in Canada. Like we won a bunch of awards at a ton of those film festivals, but we didn't have like the Sundance or anything like that.
Yeah, you make a lot of cool friends at like fellow filmmakers and like opening night galas, but like no deals are being made.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what that opened
a lot
up,
of Pop Chips and Stella Artois at the time.
Exactly, dude.
Yeah,
Stella. Yeah. Yes, you know the
So we started so the Wrap was brand new at that time. Right around that time, the Wrap was brand new. And they were like, we met Sharon Waxman at, I think it was Catherine's wake, at Catherine James's wake, because Catherine James was in her book. And so we're like, she's like, oh, we had a great conversation with her, and she's like, oh, if you guys are into you're self-distributing this movie Lost on Purpose, well, yeah. And she's like, okay, well, if you guys want to write about that on the Wrap, I'd love to hook you up with one of my editors and see if you publish some of these articles and see how this goes. Cool. So we were kind of chronicalizing the film festival roadmap we were doing and doing our own distribution. And we came up with, as we were doing it, obviously, we were critiquing these film festivals and what would have made it a lot better for us as filmmakers. We were just like, oh, it'd be great if there was like a revenue system we could tap into of some sort. It'd be great if we could do this. It'd be great if we could do that. And here's what we would do. If we were putting together film festivals, they could be, should be, would be filmmaker friendly, run like this, bump, so you could make money as a filmmaker and not just, the festival makes all the money and you don't get to see anything and you're spending money traveling, you're spending money doing this and you just don't see any back. We're like, it'd be great if we could do this and at least we could see sharing the profit. Because at that point we were selling out like 1,200 seat theaters with a couple of the movies. And we were just like, how much it was $10 a ticket. We're like, how much is that?
Sure.
Can we get a little of that to pay for some expenses? And we were just like, here's how we would do it, because it would be really great for the filmmaker, and I don't think it would hurt the film festival very much. And those articles went out, and this guy, I can't remember his name right now, but he decided off of those like 3 articles that he decided that he was going to form that festival. And so he literally made that festival off the bullet points we put down there of how we would do it. And then he called us and said, hey, he got a hold of us. And he was like, hey, I made a festival like the ones you guys said on the wrap. And we were like, holy shit, really? He was like, I'd love to put your film festival in it, or your film in it. And so he did. And someone saw it in that little festival. It was a little festival. Someone saw it, Autumn McAlpin, and she said, interesting. You made this for how much money? And you got all that cast. How? I have $500,000 in the book rights to this book, and I'm trying to get it made. And I've written a $20 million script, and it's been all over town, and I'm just in development hell, and I want to just back up and make it for $500,000. How do I do that? Can you guys show me how to do that? So we talked to her about it, and she's like, would you guys take a pass at the script? Take this $20 million script that I wrote, budgeted, and do a $500,000 pass on it. And so we read the book, we looked at the script, we did our pass on it. The producers liked it, and the one stipulation we had when they said, will you rewrite this for us, is we said, we'll rewrite it for free, because they were like, we don't have enough money to pay you to do it. Like, like we're fucking, this is bottom of the barrel. Like, we have $500,000. We want to put it on the screen. And we're like, if you will guarantee us that we are making this movie after we write it, we'll write it for free. And they said, yes. Hand shook on it. We didn't know if that was going to really be fruition, but we spent the next 6 months putting that script together with everything we had in between our ears anyway. And passed it into them. They really liked it. We went out and cast within 3 months, maybe it was 6 months, but it was like 3 to 6 months after we'd finished handed in the script. We were shooting in Utah. It was like that fucking awesome. And we had Danny Glover and James Lafferty were the two leads. And we'd had James Lafferty in our past film, Lost on Purpose, as one of the leads. And so we cast that sucker up, called in all the favors with Dale Dickey, and a couple other amazing actors to come in and do bit parts for us, and then cast the rest up out of Utah and shot that movie. It sold to Mar Vista. It went on Netflix and became like, that was before Netflix had a shitload of content. They were pretty new in their digital world. And we were like number one on Netflix for months, because we were probably the only damn thing on there that was brand new that had come on there. And so
like everyone's already seen Helvetica and Super High Me. So.
And so from that, the producers came back to us and said, do you have anything else? And we've said, well, we've got all these crime thrillers. Actually, they're nothing like Waffle Street, but we wrote these crime thrillers in this 5-year period that we're desperate to we're pumped. We're so excited to make. This is like our heart.
And just to clarify though, like the crime thriller stuff, that really is your voice. That's really what you guys want to be doing kind of all the time, or is it something where you're like, oh, we're eclectic and we want to kind of like dabble a little bit more?
I'd say eclectic, and I'd say if you watch the dramas you'll feel us all the way through them, you know what I mean? But then you put our voice inside of a crime thriller, and they just have higher budgets and more excitement and some gunplay and some action and some suspense, and we love that too. Like, we're working on this big sci-fi right now that, like, we'd love to put our voice on a sci-fi, we're putting on it right now. So like we love different genres. I think a lot of people do, like when we went to South by Southwest with Small Town Crime, they were like, what are your 5 favorite films? And, that led you to this movie. And we're like, it's 5 Easy Pieces, Predator, it was fucking all over the board. And we were just like, Jesus, like everybody else had like 5 movies that were pretty close to what they had made. And ours was just 30.
Yeah.
It was fucking nuts.
It's the 6th point on the line, right? Like everything connects, and you guys are like just like an earthquake on the Richter scale, basically.
Right. And so, and that's what we had to do. We were running around these crime thrillers, and people were reading them and enjoying them, but they couldn't tell what the fucking genre was. And that was the question we kept getting. What is this? What is this going to feel like when you make it? And finally, we made Waffle Street, and the producers were like, hey, we had a great experience. Do you guys have anything else we can make around $2 million? And we said, we've got this crime thriller. We passed them Small Town Crime. They were like, holy shit, we love this. If you guys can get some cast together, we will make this for $2 million. And so Esham and I, our first call was Octavia Spencer. And we were, because she loves crime thrillers. Obviously, we've known her at that point for like a decade. And we were just like, hey, she had hired us to write, turn this book into a series. And so we were taking these creative meetings with her, just hanging out at her house, talking about stuff. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're working on. What we're thinking, blah, 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 for about an hour or so. And then at one of them, we just finished Waffle Street. And she was like, what y'all working on? We're like, oh, we just finished this trailer. We'd love to show you the Waffle Street trailer. She watched it and she's like, holy shit, y'all got Danny Glover? I fucking love Danny Glover. She gets all pumped up. She's like, well, what do you got next? What are you guys doing next? This looks awesome. We're like, well, we've got this crime thriller we actually just got funding for. But when she's like, y'all got a crime thriller? And we're like, yeah. She's like, I love crime thrillers. So she passed it to us. Within 24 hours, she called us and was just like, holy shit, I'm in y'all. I'm EP in this. Who do you want? Make a list of 10 people. Like, it's on. I'm so excited. And is there like a cop or something I could play in this? And we're like, holy shit. So we went back to the drawing board. We called her back. We said, absolutely, yes, 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 yes. And we'll figure out the acting part because yes. And then we came back to her like within a couple hours, and we'd had this brainstorm where the movie's about an ex-cop who tries to find a dead body, or tries to find out who killed this woman. And he's a complete fuck up, and his sister is like, hey, you're a fuck up, you ruined our lives. She and her husband are having like the worst time with this guy. And so we were like, well, what if, because at that point we'd already talked about casting John Hawkes in the lead. We hadn't really gone out to him yet, but she was pumped about the idea. She's like, I've been in like 3 movies with this guy and I haven't had a scene with him. Like, I fucking love this
John
guy.
Hawkes is like one of those dudes also that like, he's got like that Bill Murray mystique around him where it's like, oh, he doesn't have a cell phone.
Yes.
You know, drop a note under a dog bowl.
It is.
And then, 3 days later, maybe you get a phone call from him, right?
Exactly.
Like, how real is that? How true is that?
It's
like
1,000% true. The way that she got a hold of him was she was like, I share a publicist with John. Let me
send him a fax.
So she calls her and says, how do I get a hold of John? And the publicist was like, you're going to have to fax him. He's a Luddite. He has no technology and refuses to do technology. And later on, we go sit down with John because he dug it. And he was like, I read this fax came through.
He's like, I got this slippery paper
with holes in it on the side.
Yeah.
He was like, I read the fax and I'm just like, what is this script? What is this, like The Jerk? Like I'm, like what I'm playing. She's playing my sister. How does this even fucking work? So he was intrigued. It was a great message from her.
Hook. Yeah,
because it hooked him to even see what the hell is she talking about. So he reads it. And he's like, I fucking loved it. He's like, I'm a big Rockford Files fan. And this for me, has that vibe. Of course, it's your own voice. He's like, but it has that fucking Rockford vibe. I'm stoked. We're like, all right, shit, amazing. And so we cast Octavia as his sister. And the whole point was that we told her this backstory. We're like, well, what if this black family adopts this kid and he's a fucking mess by the time, it's kind of at the time it was like the reverse story, Blindside story, right? It's like they get this wonderful black family gets this screw up white guy and he just fucks their family up. And that was basically what the relationship was between them. And Octavia loved it. Oh, I fucking love that. And they had a dicey scene or two together. So she was really digging on that. And then John loved that idea. And then she was like, well, who else? Who's going to play my husband? Who's going to play my husband? We're like, well, we're big Anthony Anderson fans. And she goes, sure. Oh, shit. Okay, great. I know Anthony. We get our nails done at the same salon. And we were like, what? And she calls us back a week later. And she's like, it wasn't the salon boys, but I got a hold of Anthony. He was just in the middle of like Blackish, just taking off, just exploding at that point. And she's like, he's in. He's pumped. This sounds like a lot of fun to him. He's reading the script, and he read the script, and he was in. And so those 3 actors were on board, and then we were launched and out to sea, and we had 1.9 ended up being our budget. Yeah. We made it, got into South by
30-day shooting schedule.
30-day shooting schedule in Utah, Salt Lake City.
That's healthy. That's nice, right?
And were you guys like kind of leveling up on like DPs, production designer, was like union, like all that stuff?
Yes.
So we've had the same DP for 5 pictures. His name's Johnny Durango, and he came on board with us during Lost on Purpose, our first true real movie with the crew.
And he helped raise money for the movie. And at that point, Esh started working with Johnny in safety videos in downtown LA, where Esh was his grip, towing fucking cords and shit,
stingers,
flapping fucking gels to make it look like there was a fire off screen. And then we started making these movies, and Johnny would come over and watch them. And then after Squirrel Trap, he's like, oh yeah, good job, guys. And then after Night of the Dog, he goes, you know what the only fucking problem with this movie is? We're all wet. He's all, I didn't shoot it. This looks like shit. Like, I could fucking improve your game. We're like, all right, put your money where your mouth is. And we went and did a short together. And
it did look way better.
It looked fucking ridiculous.
It looked way better.
He went and got a lens. He went and got a lens and was like, we need some depth of field, guys. What the fuck is this look you're shooting? It looks terrible. It looks like video. So he like got a lens and got some depth of field. We shot this short together. It looked like fucking a painting. And we were just like, wow. And we had the same shit light set up, but he knew how to use them. And we came out, the short looked amazing. We were super excited. And then it was, okay, what are we making together after this? And we passed him Lost on Purpose. He's like, I'm in. And from there, we've never had another DP. He's our guy. And we've all grown together a ton.
Yeah, at this point, he's like a third Nelms brother.
Yeah. But okay, so
awesome.
so Small Town Crime.
So we get Small Town Crime, and we get to premiere at South by Southwest
in a 1,200 seat theater, and it's fucking packed. And it was, the ending has a moment that's a bit of an audience pleaser type of moment in a shootout, at the end of a shootout. And the place, we got a standing ovation during the end of the shootout. And man, I was about ready to fucking cry. Like, I look over at Ash, and I think he was crying.
I was crying for sure.
And he was sitting, he couldn't even stand up, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" Like, the fucking reaction was just like, I was on fire. I wanted to jump off the balcony we were sitting in. I was so on fire, and ride the fucking hands through the crowd. Felt like that moment, you know. And then we
did it. We did it.
It felt like that moment, right?
And it was not an easy shoot. Like, every bit of it was a fight. To get to where it
just
was.
to follow up, are you guys still working day jobs at this point? Like, have you been able to still day jobs? So it's like, okay,
when we did, you're wondering, like, how do you get 30 shooting days or 35? Sorry, it was 35 shooting days on a $1.9 million budget. Well, the director, writers / producers don't get that credit, but we were doing a lot of jobs, and we were writer directors, are not in any unions, and we got paid $5,000 a piece or $10,000. I think it was $5,000 a piece to write and direct, and we were okay with that. We didn't give a fuck, because we were like, everything's going on the screen, and the producers were of the same ilk. They were like, everything's fucking going on the screen. So thank goodness
everyone was taking
shit for pay, and it was going up on the screen.
And this was paid for by the waffle people, right?
Yes. Well, they had a financier that was not involved with Waffle Street, but it was the producers went off and they had some financiers that wanted to make a movie with them. And we ended up being that first movie. So that was super exciting, super awesome. They trusted us as far as putting everything on the screen with us. No one took a payday, and it was all just, everybody was there for the art.
And we were rolling the dice on it, right? This was an investment in our future.
Yeah.
And fortunately it paid off.
And then, so we finished the screening at the Paramount in South by Southwest.
And that's when we got new reps.
We got new reps, because at that point, the crazy thing is we went and did Waffle Street, right? And Waffle Street was offered to us off of Lost on Purpose. And we had all these crime thrillers in the drawer, and our agents were like, what are you going to go do? We're like, we're going to go do this movie Waffle Street. They're going to give us the $500,000. And what the fuck is it about? This guy, they're like, okay, guys, look, this has nothing to do with the crime thrillers that we're trying to get going for you. You guys are nuts. Like, you're heading off in some weird boondoggle direction that doesn't have anything to do with where your career should be heading. This is not going to help you at all. It's going to make you look like you're disjointed. You don't know what the fuck you're doing, and you don't know what genre you're in, and you don't know what's happening, and this isn't going to help you. And we're like, okay, well, we're still doing it. And they're like, okay, you're fired. They fired us. And they still took a cut of our percentage, which was like $2,500. They took like, they took the $250 from us.
Yeah.
And then promptly fired us after they got the $250 check, which is fucking hilarious. Like 2 weeks later, they fired us.
And I remember telling them, they're like, why are you doing this? Like, well, we don't know, but it just feels like this is going to lead to the rest of it.
We literally told them, we have a feeling that if we do a good job on this, we'll be able to get to those crime thrillers with these people, with some money they can round up. We've never worked with people that can have access to money before. We were always just raising it on our own, putting our own money in. These people actually have money to spend on films. Like, let's go make some movies with them and see if we can get some of our stuff through.
And also, like, you know, it's not like your reps had been keeping you busy nonstop otherwise.
No.
It's not like, guys, what are you doing? We're busy making money and making movies over here. Why take this detour? It's like, is the choice between making a movie and not making a movie? Is that what you're mad about? Us making a movie?
That's literally the conversations, and that is literally the stance we took, and they fired us. And so we had 0 reps when we went into Small Town Crime. 0 reps. And we leaned on Octavia. She protected us through that first part of it, of getting all the actors on board and helping us, like, and vouching for us. And then, put the cast together. It came out really well. We ended up selling it for what we'd made it for at South by Southwest as Bond Films.
It was funny because, like, the South by Southwest director said, nothing sells out of South by Southwest. If you expect to come here and make a big sale, you're not doing it.
That was the amazing hype speech they give you at South by Southwest. So they run a great fucking festival. It is incredible.
Yeah. So he's like, this is about the experience. It's about who you're going to meet here.
Yeah. But there's no money here. This is not Sundance. You're not going to walk out of here with a multi-million-dollar deal. And we told her, after she said that to us, we said, we're going to prove you wrong. Just idiot, naive filmmakers. And then literally at the end of it, we had a multi-million-dollar deal for our picture, which was fucking really cool.
And who was it from?
Saban.
Films. Yeah. Bought the film outright. Basically did a negative pickup. Basically.
Yeah, we had a couple studio that was willing to do it. And then ultimately Saban was the one that won out for it.
Yeah. Which and that ended up being a really great relationship, because when we got Fat Man going, we went around town and shopped it, and everybody was kind of like, yeah, we needed like another $1.5 million minimum to do what we were trying to do. We'd had to budget it out, and then it was like,
well, we were supposed to at first make it with a studio.
Yeah.
And then that fell through.
Yeah. We had a studio attached to it. We were going to do it, and then they backed out of it. And then we were like, well, we're just going to go do it with an independent company, because we had a couple of independent companies excited about it as well. And so we took it to them, and then everywhere we went, it's always a little lower in the independent space because everybody's trying to hedge their bets and make sure they make their money back. So studios are a little more like, well, hey, maybe we can promote our way out of this, and we're going to spend a few $1 million more. So we had a budget that was pretty slim, and that was like, hey, we need this to actually be able to build these sets, or we can't just shoot against a stone wall and call it the Elf Factory. You know what I mean? So we were like, we have to actually fucking build something. So we needed another $1.5 million. And what happened was, Saban ended up doing really well with Small Town Crime. Not like, bazillion dollars, but they made millions of dollars more than they had on it.
And we described like Saban, treated.
And do you get any cut of that?
No, because we weren't in any unions. We didn't get anything. There was no residuals for Small Town Crime.
Yeah.
So you just got your $5,000.
We got $5,000 a piece, and that was it.
And the opportunity to make another one.
Yeah.
And then the movie sold for $2 million.
Yes.
And no points or anything? Like
the points are monkey points, though, because you go in, especially
like
if you're unrepresented, it's like net profit, and no one ever makes a profit, even when they're telling you. Like we've had all kinds of people in that position of distributing our film telling us they're making millions of dollars, but then when it comes down to the accounting, are you really going to spend 6 figures on an audit to go try to get that money back and ruin that relationship? Like we pushed forward with every one of them and paid it forward. We were just like, okay, we're making this one for $5,000. We're lucky to even get a fucking experience like this, to have our movie funded at this level. Let's make the best movie we can and get paid next time. And that's basically what happened. We made Fat Man.
It is crazy though, right? That you're premiering a movie at South by with Octavia Spencer, and you get the biggest sale of the festival, and then you go back to teaching kids to swim, and
we did, yeah.
Storyboard artist thing.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. But we had a lot more cachet as far as we were getting into
and we got, like I said, we got ICM.
Yep.
We got and we were cooking. We were cooking with gas, and Small Town Crime opened up a ton of doors for us. And we didn't think we were going to get to make Fat Man next. That seemed like way down the road, a couple more films.
And then our reps were like, guys, this is the most like awesome, crazy, batshit nuts things you have. Like, we think we should go batshit nuts.
For the uninitiated listener, Fat Man is a movie where like Santa Claus has a vendetta against, or maybe it's the other way around.
Yeah. So a 12-year-old boy gets a lump of coal in his stocking, so he hires a hitman to kill Santa.
Right. And never gets over it. And Mel Gibson is Santa.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Walton Goggins is the assassin.
Yeah. The amazing thing is that we went out to Mel in 2008, I think it was.
For the same part.
With the same script. Couldn't even get
a read.
Couldn't even get his boot scum to read it. You know what I mean? We couldn't even get anybody to accept it as a read. And we had some pretty decent producers pushing it. They couldn't get a read out of it.
He was kind of at the top of your
list. He was killing it, man. You know what I mean? He was the man. And then, shit happens. He gets in a position, and we were just like, fucking Mel is they were like, who do you want to be the guy? And we're like, it's fucking Mel. It's Mel. I'm sorry, it's Mel. And we had seen him at this screening of Hacksaw Ridge. And he had this beard, and he was kneading it like this at the screening when he was doing the Q&A. And we were just like, it's fucking him. It's fucking Chris. He's still Chris. Like, he's even more Chris than he was before.
Yeah.
And he just had this burden on his back because the shoot was so fucking rough. And he's telling the stories from the shoot. And he was just like, oh yeah, we did this, we did that. We were just like, fuck, this is the guy. Like, he's the guy even 10 times more. So we were like, so when we got a chance to make the movie, they were like, who do you want to do this? We're like, can we go to Mel Gibson? And they were like, yeah, that sounds fucking crazy. Yes, this sounds cool.
So this is who? ICM is like calling his agent?
At that point, we had some producers on there, and they, had inroads to agents at
and we had Nadine DeBarros on
CAA. And she was financing, so she could go make an offer. So we went and made like a real offer we're financed. Here's a real offer.
When you say real offer, it's like the
Yeah.
amount of money that you're paying is real, and the
Yeah.
perks are real, and the points
Well,
are real, and all
Nadine-
that.
It was
Nadine's
essentially
mon-
like, if you say yes, this is how much you're going to get paid.
This is how much you're going to get paid, or this is the starting point of negotiations of how much you're going to get
Yeah.
paid, and this is the budget of the film, and I'm actually backing it if you say yes. So, and she's made
Is
a
it
ton.
what's that called when you get the money regardless?
Oh, pay or play.
It was not a pay or
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, no.
It was not a pay or play.
It's not that stacked. He has to say yes, and if he says yes, we're going.
And everyone was telling us, like, Mel at that point was so notoriously slow to read, and they're like, he's really picky, he's not going to read, and we're like, all right, well, let's just fucking try. Let's give it like a month, and then let's move on.
Did you write a letter? Did you do?
Oh yeah, we wrote a letter, and I
Yep.
think we finished it with like, besides, you look fucking great in a beard. That's what we finished. That was like the last sentence of it. And so a month passes.
Did you
and
write that letter the first time around when his boots come one?
We
We
probably-
did even more.
We
the first time.
put this box together with like the script in it, wrapped it like a present, put a cigar on it. Like we did all kinds of crazy shit.
did a bunch of artwork that went in
Yeah.
it, storyboards.
And
It was crazy.
I just don't think anybody looked at it. It
Yeah.
just was not a serious project, at that point, because we didn't have funding. We just had producers, and we were trying to, break in the door to get financing.
It's a different story when you go in and you're like, hey, we have no path to financing, but if you come on board, I'm sure we can find one.
Yeah,
And that's a very
Mhm.
different conversation than we have
all the money.
the money ready to go. If you come on board, you get a check and we go make a movie.
Here's your offer. We're
Yeah,
gonna be
tell
up
us
in 3
when. Let's
months.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Nadine did that for us. We went out and made the offer. A month goes by. Ash and I are like, fuck, I guess we're going to have to fucking move on. That's kind of a heartbreak. And then I get this email in my inbox, and it was like, like I didn't know who it was from. And then the person didn't sign off. There was like no fucking.
It wasn't like a Braveheart dude 79.
Yeah, it was like some
Right.
weird
It's not
fucking
like
email.
MG.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was some weird ass email, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna fucking let me just. And we had taken so many meetings with producers at that point, probably like 20, 25 meetings with producers and production companies and financier, possible people here and there, co-producers, and
We're meeting with like Germany.
we're
Like,
meeting
who the
with
heck are these
fucking
guys?
everybody to just talk about, hey, will you put a little money in, or hey, how do we do it? And the email was like, hey, I read Fat Man. It's fucking hilarious. Let's sit down for a chin wag. And we were like, what the fuck? Like, who is this? I was like, is this some like British, like British exec somewhere? So I wrote him back and I was like, hey, thanks. Great. So glad you enjoyed it. Like the fucking, template of what you write somebody back. So glad you responded to that or whatever. I was like, so glad you enjoyed it.
Sorry, I don't
BTW,
recognize this
new
email.
phone. Who dis?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I literally at the end of it, I was just like, I don't recognize the email. Sorry. Who is this? And then 5 minutes later, the email pops through. It's like, oh, sorry, I forget to sign off sometime. This is Mel. And we were like, wow. I fucking reached over and I think I fucking grabbed Ash and shook him. And I was like, holy shit, fucking Mel read it. He likes it. He wants to meet. He wants to talk. And so we set up this meeting in Malibu where we were going to go sit at a little cafe that was near his house and just talk. And they said, you got an hour.
Make sure you're dialed.
Make sure you're dialed. Go in there. Mel's not going to sit around and listen to you fucking blibber blabber, for fucking,
It's got shit to do.
for 6 hours. Like, get in there, get out, get your shit done. This was like his people telling us, like, get in there. Mel's a busy guy. Like, okay, cool. We go in there, and then 4 hours later, we fucking emerge because we had such a fucking great conversation. And it all started with him sitting down, exchanging some pleasantries, being very complimentary about the script. And then he goes, there's one scene I want to talk about. He's like, there's one scene here.
I feel like this kind of informs the whole thing.
I feel like it informs the whole thing for me. And I just want to get your take on it and see what you think. He's like, there's this scene where Santa, he has to tell his elves that they have to take this military contract to survive the year. And we're like, yeah. And he's like, I feel like when I'm out there on that runway talking to the elves, it's such a heartbreak moment that I feel like I should be like near tears. I should be like crying. Like it's that fucked up of a moment for this guy that he has to do this to these poor little guys. And we're like, yeah, exactly. Near tears. Yeah, exactly. That's yes. And then he goes, I think that is what's going to make it so funny. And we're like, yes, that's what's fucking funny to us about it. Yes.
Because we just want to, we're going to play this dead serious.
We're going to play it straight,
Sure.
super
Yeah,
straight.
yeah.
Because there's a version of that where, like missiles are shooting out of reindeers' asses and fucking, like
You're
crazy-
winking at the camera constantly. Mugging.
he walks out with the Rambo fucking bandana on because he's
Sure.
such a big
Yeah,
80s fan. Like, it's a bunch of stupid shit that you could put in there to get fucking laughs out of. But we wanted to play it straight. We wanted it to be grounded, really grounded. And that's what we thought was funny. And that's what he thought was funny as well.
Yeah.
So we were
Santa is heightened enough,
Yeah,
basically.
right.
well,
right?
and that's
Like,
what's funny too, because Melga, we were like sitting there, I'm like, Santa is the most grounded character in this whole movie.
we had a blast making it with him. He was a consummate professional. Like, we had 4 days in a row where we shot the final shootout, and it was 32 below zero, and it was fucking
Where is this?
cold.
Is this
Ottawa,
the Valley?
Ottawa, Canada, in the valley.
boy, oh boy.
Burbank. No. We shot this
Yeah,
in
32
Ottawa.
below 100 degrees.
Exactly.
Wait, so 32 below zero, and you're shooting with him, and
So we're
he's just
shooting. Walton
doing
and
it?
Mel have this fucking epic shootout in the snow at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert, but I mean, it is a few years out here. So he's out there, and we're like, okay, Mel, it's the first day we're shooting it. It's 30 below. Everyone's nuts are freezing off, and we're just like, okay, look, you're done, Mel. Get back in that warming tent, bro. Get some fucking hot chocolate. We'll see you in an hour or whatever. You know, bring Walton out here or whatever. And then and the stunt guys, you know, the poor stunt guys who got to fucking be out there the whole time.
Sure.
So Mel goes, okay, yeah, great. Okay, cool. Great. Thanks, guys. And we turn around and we launch into something else, and we're fucking moving and shaking because we got one, it's a huge, massive sequence. Everyone's freezing and we got to go. Like, let's fucking go. We get distracted for like 20 minutes. The shot's setting up and we turn around and holy shit, Mel is standing right behind us. And we're like, did he not fucking hear us that he was cut? We are assholes. He thinks he's fucking shooting.
Mm-hmm.
He's been out here freezing his nuts for 20 extra minutes. And he's just sitting there talking to a grip and telling stories and fucking laughing and shit. And then we turn around and we go, Mel, we're so sorry. Did you not hear us that you were cut? You've probably got like an hour and a half before you're back up. He's no, I heard you guys. It's cool. I'm good. We're like,
He's like, I made a movie in a kilt. It's fine.
he never went in the warming tent for 4 days. He just had a green tea, hung out there in negative 32 degrees in his fucking
like
costume.
the drink. I
Yeah.
thought you meant a green T-shirt.
A green t-shirt. He had his costume on with like we were like ready to scale, you know, summit Everest out there. And he was in his costume with like some piddly layer underneath. It was just good enough. And man, he never went in. He never complained. And then at the end of it, he was like, we're like, dude, I can't believe you stayed out there for 4 days straight. That was fucking crazy. And he's like, look, when you're making a film, nothing is more powerful than the actor and the directors being out there 1,000% of the time, because the crew is out there 1,000% of the time.
Mhm.
Those fucking poor guys never get to go in. So I'm not going in. And we're like, and we never went in. And we like, that's how we
Wow,
roll
he
too.
gave a Braveheart speech on your
He
set.
really
Sure,
did.
that's
He
right.
really did. Then he rode the horse down. No, it was fucking amazing. And we were just like, that's how you fucking do it. You know, like that's how it's done. And we had a lot of moments with Mel like that on the set that were just fucking galvanizing and awesome. And, you know, talking to him about the other previous movies he had done. He's
So then, do you go back to the ArcLight
no.
and Tony Romo?
We'd officially gotten out of ArcLight. That was like the one where we actually we got in the Writers Guild. We got it. You know, we actually got paid for the script and paid to direct.
Paid to direct it.
Yeah,
DGA too.
Did
We
not
were a
do DGA on
Canadian
that.
DGA because we shot in Canada.
Oh.
So there was no
interesting.
DGA jurisdiction. And it actually would have been too expensive, sadly, for us to go DGA because of the double whammy you get when you go back and forth there with the
You
Canada.
had to pay twice.
You had to pay twice.
Oh.
Mm.
And then you would have had to fly in. There was something about the price of the American DGA as opposed to the Canadian DGA. And we could get away with being just Canadian DGA and being sort of princed into it there just for the months that we were there. So we took that route because I think we saved like $500,000 and we're able to like put it on screen. So,
wow.
Yeah, sure.
so,
And so, do you guys make money off of that film?
yes.
There are residuals for that.
When
film.
it sells and
Thank
stuff?
God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but that came from a couple of different things, right? I mean, one, we're making movies. We're trying to level up. Two, we get the right people in the right roles. Three, you've got a great financier. Four, Saban comes in and says, and this was the savior, right? Says, oh, that extra $1.5 million that you've been hitting people up for all over town and these other 25 companies that are kind of stuck at $1.5 million below that. Saban comes in and Jonathan Saba is the exec, and I want to fucking pump him because he's been, you know, just
So gracious to us.
just a beast. Yeah. He comes up to us and he goes, all right, look, I've talked to the people at Saban. And look, we love you guys. We want to support you as filmmakers, not just as, you know, hey, we want this movie when it's done. He's like, we're going to give you the extra $1.5 million and here's our offer. and it was $1.5 million above everybody. It was exactly what we needed. And that's what he asked us. He's like, what do you guys need to make this? Why do you keep going to all these companies? Like, what's the holdup? We're like, we're $1.5 million short. And so he came back like a day later and gave us the $1.5 million extra, and we went out and made the movie. And it literally would have been impossible to get the movie at the scope we were trying to hit, you know, without them stepping up for us, you know.
It's so crazy how, you know, the beginning of the story is like,
sure, you made
$1,500,
$1,500, yeah.
and the people that made their movie for $150,000, you're like, holy crap, like that's so much money. And now you're like, yeah, I mean, this movie can't be made without this extra $1.5 million.
Is it? But it really was that crazy, because after you get done paying you don't realize this, right? Like we don't really feel like there's been that much difference between the $200,000 movie we made and the rest of the movies we made, because the money that you are paying to just level up, to just get up with all the unions, which are warranted, very warranted, because those people have experience and you're getting such quality work, such experience. But when you're leveling up, like 90% of that goes to the level up, not on the screen. The other 10% goes on the screen.
It goes
so
to the people working on the show.
Yeah, which is very warranted. But
and it levels up.
Right. But it just shows you how the increments have to just keep going up. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, now we're making a $50 million film. And even though the crew's 90 people, it still feels like, you know, because you're only seeing 30 people a day anyway. You know, you don't see those other 60 people. They're all behind the scenes working their balls off. So it was just like, yeah, you level up, but you feel like you're still making the same level of movie, and you're just trying to get that extra $1.5 million to actually build 4 sets and have 4 days in the snow. You know, like it all goes into these weird places.
And no matter what
you still don't have enough time either, right?
Right. Again, like
that's what I was gonna say. No matter what you do, like if you make it 1.9, you're like, man, if we only had another $500,000,
a day and a half would be so
then
much
you
better.
Exactly.
Then you're making the $11 or $9 million Fat Man. You're like, man, if we only had another $500,000, and you see, then you make the next one. It's the same every time. It's the same thing.
And so, just to wrap up the story, the journey, can you just give us the quick version of how Red Right Hand comes off of this, and then the second part is like, now can you just get any movie made easily?
So there was this really cool thing that happened after Small Town Crime where we got into ICM, had some great agents there. Sorry, was I drifting audibly? But we had some great agents there, and they hooked us up with Orlando Bloom, who was new at that agency, had just come over, and they said, hey, check out these new filmmakers we picked up, and they sent him our film, unbeknownst to us. And then he had
Small Town Crime.
Yeah.
Small Town
and
Crime.
He really enjoyed it. And he was like, I want to have breakfast with these guys. And so we sat down with him for breakfast. And it was, you know, like one of those fucking weird, cool, super cool moments where just like an A-list actor says, hey,
a hotel in Santa Monica. I can't remember what it was.
It was like a hotel in Santa Monica. I was like,
no, it wasn't.
You're like the third story up in this place that has I don't know. I can't. I could pick it out if we drove by it, but I can't be like, I never went there again.
Sure.
Was it all celebrities?
No, it was just like
honestly, it was like there were hardly anybody in there.
Yeah, it was, but it was a great place, and it was quaint, and we had a nice, quiet conversation. It was wonderful. He brought his little dog with him. It was awesome, and we sat around. Right, so we sat around for 2 hours, and he was
not
just
Legolas.
Yeah, right. So we sat around for 2 hours just talking movies and talking about life, and just, you know, getting to know him for 2 hours. And there was this crazy thing that happened while Ash and I were sitting there, and we were just like, and this is like 2017, and we were just like, man, I haven't seen a couple things he showed us, you know, just as a person. I've never seen that in a movie with him. Like I didn't know he was that person. I didn't know he was capable of that. I didn't know that was in him. And it was just little glimpses of things he'd say, stories he'd tell us. And we were just like, fuck. And he was like, guys, let's work on something together. Let's do it. You know? And so we always had him in the back of our mind. And when that script hit us, we were just like, fuck, this is it. What if we put Orlando in this fucking crazy Southern noir thriller action film as this fucking guy from Kentucky? And the characters are so rich in the film that for us, you know, envisioning him as that character, it was just like putting him as a person on his head for people. Like we'd never seen him do anything like that. So that was that. And we literally we texted him. We said, dude, we just got this script in. You need to fucking read it. We couldn't be more excited or passionate about you playing this role. It's fucking crazy, But if you have any interest in it, just call us after you read it. Like, let's talk.
And when you get the script, it's like so good that you don't even say like, we're going to change this part and this is this. Like,
Oh, no,
it's
well,
just exactly.
There
the
was a
perfect fit.
process to it. Like, we
Yeah.
got the script. It was like a Nickel Fellowship semifinalist or something.
Yep.
It
Great script.
was
I mean,
a great script.
Jonathan easily wrote a great script. The characters leapt off the page.
It's the characters, the dialogue, and he did all the changes up front. And there was a development period where we spent maybe like a couple of weeks, and we just said, "Hey, we were trying to up the action sequences a little bit because they were smaller in places, a lot smaller, and we were just like, we really want to push ourselves with this action and get these sequences really humming." And so he worked with us for a few weeks, maybe like 4 or 5 weeks, really getting these. And it was such a great collaboration because a lot of times, we've had a couple of other collaborations where the writer's like, "Hey, I want to do the writing on it." We're like, "Okay, yeah, cool, we get it. We're writers too. Like, it's your baby." And they would start writing on it, and they're in love with the script the way they wrote it, and we get it. And they wouldn't give you 1,000% in the rewrite, and then it's kind of like, "Is that what you wanted?" Kind of feeling when they pass it to you. Whereas Jonathan would like break his back to make what you asked for work, and sometimes you're like, "Okay, I see what, like, you've done all the work down the river as well. Fucking amazing." And we now realize as we're reading it, that note we gave you was shit because you had this hurdle and you figured that out and fixed it, and now came back to us with a fix for something we didn't even know was a fix at the time. So he went really hard. He went really hard in the paint trying to make that script work for us. And we were so excited with it afterward that we were like, this is ready to go. And we did a little pass on it, just kind of a beat pass, like, as directors, you're like sitting there thinking, okay, what does this look like shot for shot? And so we took a few weeks at it, just kind of going like, as a writer for him, he's not technically like, writing down every beat, every shot. He's like, we do this, we do that, we go here, we do that. And we're like, hey, it's a low angle. We come in and for us, our language as we're writing it to how we would shoot it,
And is that pass something that you put in front of actors, or is that something that's more kind of an internal process document for you?
We waited until that was done to put it in front of actors.
Yeah, that's the last pass we did. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then
so it's important that the actors are seeing those beats in their mind the way that you see them, rather than letting a screenwriter kind of gloss over some of the glue in between things.
Sure. And I mean, we definitely try to write in our own stuff, and anything that we're going to do, we try to write it so that you can have a pretty visceral experience while you're reading it, that you're like, oh shit, I can kind of see how this is playing. This is fun, and we're big fans of, like, you read a lot of James Cameron's early scripts, the way he writes action, it's cracking. Like, you watch, you read like his original Terminator script or his Aliens scripts from back in the 80s, and holy shit, it's like he's racing through the maze. He's racing through the alleys like a hot wired rat in a maze. It's like shit like that. You're like, whoa, you can see it from the top view, and he's got like low angle pushing in as he's or whatever, his sneakers, or you're just like, whoa, like everything's just popping visually for you as you read his action. And we really attempt to try to.
I mean, we don't put a lot of camera stuff in anymore.
Right. We probably backed off on that and say other things instead of pushing in with a whatever fucking lens. We don't do that anymore. But like, we do say, like, you get an idea of, like, when you're like, we're low on his sneakers, or you do use shit like that.
Or we notice X, Y, or Z, and
right.
that feels like an insert, or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you guys have like a separation of duties, like on set? Is one of you a little more shot selection, camera angles, and then one more like talking to actors, or are you guys pretty much both doing everything? Or do you guys storyboard everything?
Yeah, I mean,
it's already kind of set to go.
Exactly. So in the storyboard process and in the script writing process, we really get it all dialed so that, if one of us gets hit by a bus on the way to the set, the other one can just take the baton and no one would notice. I think at this point in our collaboration, we've become like dysfunctionally codependent. And we both talk to actors. Neither of us have any ego about it. It's like, oh, hey, like after a take, we'll make a quick powwow. Like, oh, no. And you'll be like, oh, what about this? I'm like, dude, let's go tell him.
And probably on like our first film, I definitely had that experience, right? Because Esh is doing all the storyboards, and we're shooting this $1,500 film, and Esh is doing all the storyboards, and then the 5 actors are out there, and Esh is out there like, okay, you're here, and this is there, and this is happening, and then you do this, and you do that, and you do this, and you do that. And I don't even think I studied the storyboards that well that first time we were directing Squirrel Trap back in the early 2000s. And I just remember feeling way out of the loop on the first day. And I was just like, that's never going to happen to me again. And then Esh and I fucking made sure I understood every ounce of those storyboards and every frame that we were storyboarding and writing down. And we've done that ever since. And when he's out there, and then and probably on the first film, I do remember moments of, starting to sweat, the flop sweats when like he's talking to the actors for like 3 hours straight and I haven't said a word to them. And I'm like, they think I don't know what I'm doing. I'm back here and I'm fucking just sweating. Like, I don't know, and then like now he's talking to the actors for 3 hours and I'm just like, fucking talk to the actors for 3 hours. Like, you got it. You're on a roll. You understand what you're saying. And then I'll take over for 2 or 3 hours or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's baton passes everywhere now. And we try to be as egoless about every part of it as possible. The only thing we concentrate on is, are we getting what we want? Are we getting what we needed? And is this what we envisioned?
Yeah. I do think, like, to Ian's story, like, I remember in those early films, I was so attached to the storyboards. And so I remember we showed up at this gas station.
That was fucking funny.
And they were like, hey, you can't shoot here anymore. We changed our mind. And we're like, oh, shit. And so Ian comes back and goes,
we
dude.
boarded it for this guest.
No, 100%. So
he
Ian
boarded it.
You pull it out and show them.
Yeah. And so Ian comes back. He runs down the road. And he comes back. Goes, don't worry, dude. I got the gas station down the street. They're going to let us shoot out there for like another 20 minutes. I'm like, great, let's go. We hop in the car. We get to the location. I get out of the car. I go,
the pumps and everything are completely arranged differently.
I'm like, this fucks up the plan, dude. How does this work? And my brain, honestly, like, skipped a beat. Like, could not compute. I was like, wait, what? And he goes, calm down, dude. I got it. And he's all starts putting actors in scene. I was like, thank you, man.
And then literally 20 minutes later, he goes, holy fuck, thank you. I don't know what happened. He's like, it wasn't the storyboards, and I lost it. That was our first $1,500 movie. Like, we're just learning anything and everything at that point.
And I was like, and that was my moment where I was like, that will never happen again.
And I can't be, we can't be that attached to the boards. And now, like, you go into a scene and you're working with an actor like Walton Goggins, and you're like, hey, here's the boards. You hit A, B, C. And he's like, what if I go A, D, F, which aren't even on the fucking storyboards? And you're like, fuck, try it. Let's do it. Like, fucking go. Okay, then that means we got to move the camera over here. Johnny, he wants to fucking go boom, boom, boom. Let's fucking run that and see what it looks like. Cool. Awesome. And then Walton will come up with like 25 fucking brilliant things that you got to fucking follow him. You know what I mean? And now all he needs is a runway, and he's going to fucking figure out
he's
the
going
rest
to be
of
on a voyage of discovery.
Exactly. Whereas then we've worked
funny.
with... Sorry. Yeah.
I think of like commercials as like every single shot is boarded, but if I did like a narrative thing, I'd probably have maybe some important actions things, but I'd probably just make like a shot list text and then kind of,
I wonder though, Oren, like, I think, look,
I haven't done it for a while.
It's been a minute and you get kind of, your priorities would shift, right? But like the great thing about commercials is that you're putting in reps in terms of learning how to refine your process and your prep in particular, right? Like your prep is everything because you have to present it to people so many times. And so I feel like abandoning that skill set just because it's like a different medium feels unlikely, like, I mean, maybe, I guess it's like also just the scope is different, right? Like you can't do an animatic with like precision
for a 2-hour movie.
For a 2-hour movie. Yeah.
I think
you
it's
could, but
the thing that helps a ton, obviously, is that Esh is a professional storyboarder. So like, he will literally, when things change at times, he'll sit down and just be like in between shots and stuff, he'll be sketching what we're doing now. You know what I mean? Shit like that. Like he's just like, and even if they're just quick thumbnails, he's just doodling. And like,
that's our shot list.
Yeah.
Right?
And
like we honestly don't do a shot list. We're like, we show the
we're getting through these boards.
Yeah, we go, here's what we want to do. We want to cut here. We go to the DP, and that's like just our vocabulary now at this point.
And it helps a ton, like when we sit down, even if it's like 2 people, he boards the entire film. If it's 2 people sitting across from each other for 30 seconds, that's boarded, and that's sitting there. And then it's like, hey, maybe these 2 bonus shots, and then we'll get in there and start shooting. And the actors are so fucking good. They start moving in different ways. They start doing different things. They understand what we've boarded out, and they understand where they can move, and shit starts to change. And then we're like, hey, Johnny, can we pop in on that? You know what I mean? Like shit starts changing. But it helps so much to have this, to have the template to start with, and to show the actors, this is where you're at. This is where you can move. This is what you can do. And then we're going to move in for this and this, or this is our move in. So let's do something fun and creative off the top. So that move isn't boring. You're not just static, like it's fun for them, I think, to understand. Cause we've also been on some of those early shoots where the actors are like, okay, what's my frame? And you're like, you're like, Johnny, what's the frame?
Well, yeah. Like, I mean, I know like some actors are really stickler for like what millimeter lens you're on at what moment and how many cameras you're shooting at them. Right. Because their performance is is different for a long shot or a telephoto. It's like, is it a wide telephoto? What am I dealing with here?
Sure.
Yeah.
Am I gonna flare my nostrils?
Yeah, exactly. How big am I going?
Well, so just to wrap things up, can you remind us again where we can see Red Right Hand and also
Yeah, so Red Right Hand
Fat
drop.
Man?
Yeah, Red Right Hand dropping Feb 23rd. It's going to be in theatricals, some theatrical
It's a
settings.
day and date as well. So I think we have, it looks like 30 some odd theatrical across the nation, theaters across the nation, but we're also day and date on, all your renting, buying platforms, like with Apple and
The places
Amazon
people
and,
rent it.
Yeah,
That's fun. What's it called?
the usual suspects, you can find all of our
TVOD.
movies.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. And
Killer,
then-
awesome. So anyone at home, you can watch it any which way. Hopefully in a theater, but worst case scenario, at home isn't so bad either.
And what about Fat Man? Is that
Usual suspects as well.
Yeah.
That's going to be on Apple.
It also has, it was picked up by
Amazon.
Peacock.
Oh,
It's on
great.
Peacock.
There
Yeah,
you
it's
go.
on Peacock, and if you have Peacock, you can watch it on there for free or with ads or whatever they do. I think they have a couple different tiers, but yeah, you could also rent it on Amazon. You can rent it anywhere or buy it anywhere.
awesome? And is there another feature you guys are working on? I know you guys have some TV stuff going.
Yes, we've got the TV stuff. We've got second season of Everyone's Doing Great, which is an independent TV series that we produced, and
We sold the first season to Hulu domestically, and then we basically produced the whole 8 episodes and then sold it retroactively to Hulu, and then domestically, and then a bunch of other territories, and then we just finished putting together Steven and James the creators pretty much just finished. They do a lot of the editing and all the directing and writing. It was a little bit shared this time, but they do all that stuff by themselves. So they were in there cracking on the edit for the last few months and just finished the edit of all 8 episodes. And now they're out selling it with the sales rep. So,
and as far as
So
we're
it's
going,
not going back on Hulu.
I don't know.
It's
That's a
possible.
good question, because now the game changes a little bit, and that was a little bit by design, right? You basically rent it to Hulu or whoever gets it. You rent it for a couple of years, and then you get it back. And now we have a second season, so now you'll be buying or renting the first and second season, so that it just changes a little bit of like, okay, do we want both seasons again, or do we want and then there's other
interesting.
territories, so and then that game changes a little bit. What territory you sell,
And it's
to
a fresh
first.
premiere as well. So
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
So I have no doubt it took a few months last time to get the ball rolling and have a game plan, and I think that's just how TV sales with all the different markets work. So
Sure.
yeah, and then obviously
Awesome, guys.
we've got a bunch of stuff cooking,
Oh,
so hopefully
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah. We'll definitely have you guys back the next time something pops off.
dude, let's do it.
Do you have a few more minutes to hang out
Yeah.
and endorse with us?
Absolutely.
Killer. Awesome.
Unpaid endorsements.
Kind of like, obvious or required reading, but it's been really nice to listen to because, if you're paying attention to the trades or like what's going on in independent film, it can be a little bit of a bummer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's nice to just like be motivated and reminded of like, oh, there are people out there doing it their own way, not unlike you guys, right? Like bootstrapping and figuring out how to like make a film in your own voice. And so it was just kind of like a little bit of motivational comfort food for me on like commutes to and from work. So Like Brothers is my endorsement.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. You guys.
I can
okay,
jump
who-
in. I can jump
Who
in.
wants to go first?
I can jump in. So I'm also going to give a reading or listening book in Audibles. I'm listening to Pandora's Box, Peter Biskin's new book about sort of the golden age of TV, or at least the last. It's called Pandora's Box: How Guts, Guile, and Greed Upended TV. Green as well. The Greed Upended TV by Peter Biskin. Great book. It's so great. I'm almost finished with it. It's been, I think it was like 16 hours or something like that, but man, it freaking flew by. Just listening to all the your greatest hits about your favorite shows. It was amazing.
And what's
Yeah.
it called one more time?
Pandora's Box
Pandora's Box by Peter
by
Biskin.
Peter Biskin. Yeah.
Cool.
How Guts,
Yeah. I
Guile,
was
and
like, wow, that name is really familiar. He wrote
Yeah.
Down and Dirty Pictures and Easy
Yeah.
Writing Riches books
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well.
Legend.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we plugged his
killer.
other book. While we're yeah, he's definitely required reading for us. Anything that guy comes out with something, we dive on it.
Killer. I'll definitely have to check
Awesome.
it out.
Ashton,
Ash, what you got?
anything?
Oh man, should we just keep it books all around?
Go on,
Does that
however,
work?
yeah.
Is that
I mean,
okay?
no, Oren's not going to do that. Yeah.
Oh, great. Awesome. So I just finished Path to Paradise by Sam Wasson. I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Really
Coppola.
really dug it. It's about
that's
Coppola and the Zoetrope years. Really inspiring. The man was so ahead of his time in so many ways. And yeah, man, and honestly, from his, I took a lot away from both his successes and his failures from that book. And it was really inspiring. I would call Ian every night. I'm like, dude, he did this and this, and he was a landmark. He didn't even know. I had no idea. Like I'd watched Fog City Mavericks, the documentary. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it essentially
No,
talks
I
about
haven't seen
Zoetrope in San Francisco.
Fun.
I had no idea he'd opened a Zoetrope in Los Angeles. There's a whole second chapter to Zoetrope I didn't even know existed. So to learn about the Hollywood Zoetrope,
Yeah, he actually made the studio that we kept reading and watching documentaries telling us that he had this dream for that never came to fruition. He actually had it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And made a couple of movies with it. And like, it was literally, he had a studio, a brick and mortar studio with hundreds of people working in it, making movies on a lot. Yeah, it was crazy, but I never knew that even
Wild.
existed.
Yeah. Matt, I feel like you got to read this book now. It's been
I
mentioned
know. It's
quite
been
a few
mentioned.
times. On the
Oh,
podcast.
really? Path to Paradise?
No. Yeah.
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 Oh, wow.
It's good. It's really good.
Man,
gotta
what a
do it.
cliche, Ash. Come on.
No,
I mean,
no,
listen.
no. I mentioned it too. It's fine.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was not the first person to mention it.
Yeah. And I think people have talked about my book many times already. Like, I'm pretty late to the party, and I host the podcast. I know better.
I think Josh Rubin mentioned your book, and then he lent it to me, and then it's pretty good.
Have you given it back to him? You stole
no.
a book from Josh?
I still have it. If anyone wants it, let me know. The Duplass one. I got just two bad ones today. A lot of my non-film friends and one film friend, Yuki Noguchi, DP, who pays me $5 every time I mention his name on the podcast, sent me this new OpenAI Sora. Is everyone sending that to you? It's like all over the place. It's basically like creating
Bobby
video
Lamb.
from text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like Midjourney or like Dolly or whatever, but for video. And the demos are just bonkers.
Truly insane. Yeah.
Wow.
It'll be
Yeah.
like, the prompt is like a vintage Jeep driving down a canyon with as a drone shot or whatever, and it's photo.
It's exactly that. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
Yeah. The camera follows behind a white vintage SUV with a black roof rack as it speeds up a steep dirt road surrounded by pine trees on a steep mountain slope. Dust kicks up, and then you'll see the video, and it's like a super cinematic, amazing version of that shot.
Honestly, if you like searched on like high-end film stock, like B-roll sites, you'd be hard pressed to be able to tell the difference.
Wow.
Like I
What's it called again?
Sonora.
Sora, SORA from
Wow.
OpenAI. Here, I'll put some
Sora.
links in the chat. here.
Wow.
It's like it's equal parts really cool and terrifying, right?
Yeah.
Like why would you ever,
Especially if
pay-
you're in the B-roll business.
sure, or in the commercial business, right? Like why would you ever pay for a whole crew to shoot anything when ChatGPT can write a bunch of customized prompts based off of your specific metadata? Like you can engineer custom commercials on a per user basis with this sort of technology. It's like it's
is
mind
scary.
blowing.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my second one is it's not an A+ endorsement, but it's like a solid B+, A-, and it's the Pizza Party potato chips from Trader Joe's. Have you had these yet, Matt?
No, but I can't wait.
It's a
They're all
Pizza
my
Party in a
favorite
bag.
food.
It's a blend of cheese, garlic, pizza sauce, pepperoni, seasons, like all those seasonings on kettle cooked potato chips, but it is vegetarian. I don't eat pork myself, so I was a little worried when I saw pepperoni flavor, but it's made from like a vegan pepperoni.
It's just like liquid
seasoning.
smoke, probably something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I bought some. They're pretty good. I'm enjoying snacking on them.
Good.
Well, cool. Thanks again. How do people? Are you guys on social media?
We are. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got got the website, got the social queue there.
Twitter and Instagram, I think, are the probably the two main ones.
Yeah, but it's like Nelms Bros.
Nelms Bros. Sorry, yeah, Nelms Bros.
Nelmsbros. Awesome. Well, if you all want to forward us any questions for the Nelms Bros, we're happy to pass them on. You can email us at justshootitpod@gmail.com. You can find us across all social media at justshootitpod. I'm on Instagram at okaplan.
And I'm at Mr. Matt Unlow. This episode was produced by Noah Bayshore and Tyler Small, and you're listening to music provided by the Free Music Archive and the artist Jahzzar. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.